Chavez says she ended up taking that petition over the West Loco City Hall in 2021, only she says she never heard back from anyone. The words on this mural have since been painted over. The mayor of the city of Brownsville says he will let the legal process take its course, and that was all captured on city cameras. Now, if you take a look right over there, we put in a public records request for this alleged incident, and we have it on video. Now, progress at this subdivision is happening. If we take a look, sidewalks are being completed, but if we move a little bit further, more work needs to be done. And that is the same story here on these streets that are practically just dirt. And there's so much of it that vehicles are now having to drop water just to keep that dirt down. This is the border wall. This is the reality. This bus here is full of migrants. Now, the National Guard worked alongside the Border Patrol in operations just like this one. We want to give you a better idea of what exactly is happening within District 34 and District 15. Now, Congressman Gonzalez says as a result of these new redistricting lines, he's actually losing 2 different counties. Now, he is talking about Jim Hogg and Duval County. As you can see, they've been absorbed by District 28. District 34 now used to run a lot more further north, but it's been severely reduced. The farthest north it goes now is Claiborne County. With all these bays, it doesn't take long for things to get busy. Although it's quiet now, in just a split second, all of that can change. And on the top floor of the Starr County Courthouse, an exit sign surrounded by a ceiling that is just sagging. And just a few steps forward, newspaper covering up this part of the window.
To me, it's a very heartbreaking and cruel thing to do.
Bishop Daniel Flores wrapping up a prayer vigil for Melissa Lucio, the Harlingen mom scheduled to die by lethal injection in just 5 days. The bishop calling attention to the case from the San Juan Basilica. The basilica decorated with Easter lilies, bright spring flowers, and signs that read "No capital punishment." Channel 5's Trevier Gonzalez at the basilica this evening. Trevier, we know the Catholic Church is against the death penalty in all cases. What makes this one different?
Yeah, Christine, it has to be that new evidence that Lucio's growing amount of supporters say is proving her innocence. Now, members from both sides of the political aisle have been watching this, and they say that this is something that needs to be stopped. It's a case that's captured the attention of the nation, with Melissa Lucio's execution date now less than a week away. Tonight, her family filing in and getting a hand of faith.
I think that there's a sense that this is kind of a moment for us as a community to say we need to stop killing people to solve our problems.
Bishop Daniel Flores delivering a simple message that death is not the answer. The Texas Board of Pardons and Parole has previously stated at Channel 5 News that they can put a stop to the execution only 2 days before, unless otherwise stated, putting family members in a holding pattern that's long been hurting.
I don't sleep. I want to go to sleep and not wake up till this day is over. I sometimes scold at my husband, and I know it's not his fault. It's just the pressure we're under, and it's scary.
And that fear is something Lucio has too. Valencia saying her sister is prepared to join her daughter Mariah should the execution move forward, though everyone is praying that doesn't happen.
We've already lost 15 years with my sister. But I'm still faithful, and I'm very hopeful that I'm going to hug my sister soon, very soon.
Now, I asked Bishop Flores about that 2-day policy with the Texas Board of Pardons and Parole, and he said that is something that has caused a lot of anguish for this particular family with each and every day, and something that needs to change. Live in San Juan, Trevier Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 10.
A Brownsville woman demanding an apology from the mayor. This after she was arrested for vandalizing a mural in the city.
30-year-old Rebecca Hinojosa is not admitting fault. She does say, though, the city's response was an overreach. Channel 5's Trevier Gonzalez is live in Brownsville. And Trevier, you ended up making several public information requests about this particular arrest.
Good evening, Christine. Oscar, that is correct. I ended up making a total of 3 different public information requests a little bit more than 2 weeks ago. Now, this mural itself has garnered a lot of attention since it was completed in September of last year. Some of the criticism was because it was completed by an LA-based artist who was paid $20,000 from the city with money from the Elon Musk Foundation. Now, the criticism back then was whether or not this particular artwork represented the community. But this alleged graffiti is instead opening up a completely different conversation and posing the question of whether or not this particular act really warranted this much of a police response.
I hear a knock at the door, and it's a really loud knock, really strong knock.
It's a testimony centered around these words. According to authorities, Rebecca Hinojosa is believed to have committed this crime the night of February 15th, so much so that 4 officers showed up to her home the following morning. She says only 1 officer was uniformed.
I open the door a crack, I ask who is it, and they tell me it's Brownsville PD, and I ask to see a warrant, and they push the door in, and they come into my apartment, and they put my hands behind my back, and I beg them to let me at least change because I'm in my pajamas and I'm barefoot, and they threaten me with charging me with resisting arrest.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like they essentially forced themselves in.
That's how it felt, yes.
Hinojosa says she was jailed for roughly 26 hours before bonding out. But it was this post made by the mayor afterwards that garnered criticism. That statement, which mentioned Hinojosa's workplace, has since been edited. But both Hinojosa and her attorney believe it was not the right call.
To treat her as a violent criminal is just obscene, and to me seems a plain abuse of power.
The words on this mural have since been painted over. The mayor of the city of Brownsville says he will let the legal process take its course, and that was all captured on city cameras. Now, if you take a look right over there, we put in a public records request for this alleged incident, and we have it on video. Multiple cameras do show someone walking in and committing that crime before walking into a store, coming out, and later driving off. Hinojosa is not admitting fault, but as a vocal critic of SpaceX, she says whoever did commit the act was likely trying to send a message. And her own message to the mayor is that this experience with police and social media is not something that should have happened.
It was inappropriate, to publicly target a community member, a very active constituent, and he should apologize to me and drop the charge.
Now, it should be said that getting a response from this city, and specifically the mayor, was one of the first things I tried doing. However, Trey Mendez told me on February 24th that he would not be addressing the matter and instead redirected me to a Facebook statement. That will be on our website, but in short, it says that Ms. Hinojosa will have her day in court to answer for the charges and evidence presented to her.
And Trevier, one question before we let you go. You said you made 3 public requests. We saw the security footage and the arrest report. What about the third one?
That one is arguably one of the most important ones. I requested body camera footage for this particular incident of whenever they entered the home. Now, we ended up getting those 2 other records, but I was told for that particular one that I did not give them enough information, which is interesting because we got the arrest report. So I have since replied to them with the arresting officers and the information that is with that report, and I'm waiting to hear back to see if we might be able to get that video at some point. Live in Brownsville, Trevier Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 10.
To an employment mystery in Donna, one you, our viewers, brought to our attention. Several of you wanted to know if you still had a police chief. Seems simple enough. Trevier Gonzalez set out to get the answer, but as you're about to see, it's been anything but.
Emails and texts. It's a typical process for how we get answers. We make a call to a local government office and set up an interview. Larger cities like McAllen and Edinburgh have employees to help make that happen, and usually are able to respond the same day. Smaller municipalities can sometimes take a little longer, but still end up happening. But it was back toward the end of March when we received these email tips with claims that Donna's chief of police had been suspended. But trying to verify that has been difficult. We're trying to see if we might be able to confirm whether or not the police chief has been suspended or terminated. Is there someone we might be able to speak about that?
Just a moment.
Person after person has referred us to speak with interim city manager Frank Perez. Though we've never been connected with him directly, this is us trying to make contact with the city secretary.
Your call is being forwarded to a MyTel voicemail system.
And that is not the first time I've left a voicemail. In fact, call logs show that Channel 5 News has reached out to the city of Donna at least 12 different times, meaning answering that question is going to take a different method. I typed up a series of public information requests to be submitted to the city, one of which asking to look at all pay stubs of the police chief from November of last year to the 21st of April. Now, these documents can be electronically submitted or mailed over, but we're going to be delivering them to City Hall ourselves. On the way, I came up with one more request that I wrote on a paper towel. Those subject to the Public Information Act have to accept this too. By mere coincidence, we stumbled across Perez on our way, though our time with him was short. Have you got any of my messages?
Yes, but regarding specifically
the employment status of the police chief.
he's working.
He's working?
Good.
It's going good?
Yes, sir.
How come it's been so difficult to get you to answer back on that?
I'd just like to let you know that he's working and he's doing well.
Well, I've called you 15 times, sir. With the interim city manager driving off before the closing of City Hall, we took those requests up to city staff. While the city manager indicated that Chief Guerrero is still working, the city of Donna now has 10 days to respond to each individual request, unless they seek an opinion from the Attorney General. A long process to a simple question. In Donna, Trevier, Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 10.
The way it's been described to us, absolutely, it could be helpful.
But so far, no bus rides yet. Again, migrants would have to volunteer for the ride. Channel 5's Trevier Gonzalez sat down with McAllen's emergency management coordinator for a closer look at the potential impact on the city.
As the individual who has provided numerous briefings on the status of migrants being kept at Gonzalez Park, Jeff Johnston says the ending of Title 42 is something he's expected for some time. He tells us he had an idea Governor Abbott's announcement would involve the transportation of migrants. But after listening in on yesterday's conference, he says the city of McAllen has since had multiple conversations with the Texas Department of Emergency Management.
We're still waiting to see what those numbers may be in terms of migrants coming across once Title 42 does in fact end.
That ending is set for May 23rd. Still, the State Department's chief reported to the governor that they would be ready to implement their plan this morning. We asked Johnston if that's something he's seen.
That I'm aware of, getting on buses to head to Washington, D.C.? No, not yet. Again, it's because it's voluntary. It will take time for the immigrants to figure out exactly where it is that they're headed.
Johnston says the most logical locations for this pickup process is Gonzalez Park and Catholic Charities in downtown McAllen. And even though it's unlikely that every migrant's final destination will be Washington, D.C., he says it's a move that makes sense.
It is a major hub for transportation, so there is some logic in getting to Washington, D.C. if your final destination is somewhere along the eastern seaboard, especially the northeastern part of the country. It could make sense for some people.
We visited Sister Norma over at Catholic Charities, their hands still full in handling the seemingly never-ending flow of migrants seeking asylum.
As long as they're taken care of properly and correct, it may be something good for some of the immigrants that are traveling to the East Coast.
While it's been made clear Abbott is unhappy with the way in which President Biden has responded to the border crisis, it's her hope that this push by the governor is a decision made in good faith.
I think maybe it may be a good thing for the families, and so if that's the intention of the governor, I hope that it be for the good use of the families.
In McAllen, Trevier Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 10.
Edinburgh's historic Citrus Theater now under new ownership. His vision for the theater, an ambitious overhaul, one that he and his team hopes will help cause a ripple effect in revitalizing the city's downtown area. But before that construction begins, Channel 5's Trevier Gonzalez shows us one last glimpse of how the theater looks today.
Their final show was 1993's Groundhog Day. Now, more than 2 decades later, the Citrus Theater will soon be getting massive renovations.
We're on really firm ground as far as where we are hitting the ground running with this project and moving forward.
A forward direction on a piece of history that is clearly aged, but surprisingly still working. With the grand opening tentatively set for December, the Citrus will make its return with modern amenities, as well as an extended stage to welcome larger concerts. With projects like Hidalgo County's new courthouse, as well as the City of Edinburgh's ACE Center, the theater's hope is that this revitalization is something that will inspire more support to the city's downtown. While the theater is keeping their screen, they are shifting their focus to live performance, but its past will not be left behind.
We want you to feel like the nostalgia is still there.
But before the renovations, members of the public got a rare chance to see the theater in its current state.
That was the seat that he had his first kiss in, and he remembered her name, and you could kind of see like sort of this whole thing started taking over him, and he said, I can smell her perfume in the air.
Renee Sanchez-Leal gave many of those farewell tours, some even reawakening memories that had long been packed away. She told us of one woman she met.
And she said, I just want to go up on the second floor and look at the seats that I sat in with my husband on our first date. I lost him 4 years ago, and I had my first date with him, my first kiss. He proposed here, everything. The Citrus meant everything to her story. And we got to share that with her.
Stories of the past with new ones likely to come. In Edinburgh, Trevier Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 10.